Hey guys, welcome to Campaign for North Africa. I decided to do this on actually the map instead of doing it on Vassal. I'm actually not a big Vassal fan. The only reason why I play is because my other opponents that I play with, it's the only way we can play a game online. If not, I prefer to be using the map. That's why I buy these war games. So I just put together a little thing here where I have the Italians going up against the British, and we're having the Italians trying to take this town back here. And we have for the British the 7th Armor and the 10th Armored Division. Italians are Mileti Division and the 2nd Libyan. And then I have over back behind them is the 15th Panzer Division. But right now we'll just start with these units. You know, I love just playing out movement and combat until I actually have it down packed. You know, we have so many rule sets in our head from playing so many games that when you go back to a game, you gotta now remember or relearn everything that you learned from before. And so that's exactly what I'm doing again. Now there was a rule for the anti-armor part that is fuzzy. In the rule book they gave two different examples. In the rule it states one way and then an example shows it a different way. But the example will allow, if you use that mechanic, the example allows that any weaker tank can take out tanks that they can never take out in real life. So it doesn't make sense. And I have to explain this. I guess I'll explain it when we do combat and when we get to it. So I'm gonna play the way I know it as, and the way it makes sense, and the way the rule states it. Not the example, but the rule. So in any event, let's get started. By the way, I saw someone else posting on Facebook. I forgot his name again. He's doing some campaign for North Africa on his Vassal. Good for him. I like that. I was able to also pick up another copy of this game. So I always like to have 2 to 3, just in case something happens to one of my copies. I still have others, and I usually do that for games I really like. So here's my spreadsheets that I have going on. So we have the Italians down here, the British up here. I use these because you have capability points. And basically, as you move, you exert capability points. And so what I usually do is I put this underneath the counter to let me know how many capability points they use on movement. And then I use these to show me, or to let me know how much I spent on combat. Because when you do combat, the attacker exerts 5 when attacking, if they barrage or do close assault. And the close assault is more than 50% of their units. The defender uses, it costs them 3 to defend against a barrage and a close assault. However, there are times that it can be 2, and I have one for 2, just to cover all avenues. And basically, it helps me when I'm playing this. If I move this unit, let me just put this here. If I move this unit along the map, and I said I wasted, let's say, 8 CP movement, I just put it underneath. And then I say, oh, I'm gonna make an attack. I'll just put then a 5 down to let me know I spent 5 CP for an attack. And then usually I'll put it underneath too. I just didn't clip them. I have them clipped. And that way, later on, I can go back to my spreadsheet and then fill out my paperwork after I do everything. So that's why I use these. They're very handy. All right, guys, let's do movement and combat again. So the Italians are gonna go first. And so they're gonna move into position. Let's see. I think we'll send both divisions against the 7th Armor. Because if this 2nd Libya tries to go after the 2nd Armor by himself, it won't win, I don't believe. So let's do that. So that costs 2, 4, 6. So we wasted 6 to get there. Two, 4, 6. Let's see, 2, 4. Yeah, I want to stay on the trail. Put a lot of these on the map. Now, when I moved the first time with this unit, let me zoom in. When this unit moved in the first time, before this unit got there, 7th Armor had a chance to react. And reaction allows them to just retreat out of there. Now there's 2 types of retreat. There's reaction, and then there's retreat before assault. So right here they had a chance to react and get away. Now, the only units that can react are motorized units. If you're leg units, you cannot, unless you're trucked. So they choose to stay. Once they choose to stay, and another unit gets next to them, another division or whomever, you're locked in, you can't move because you got locked in by this person. So you're in contact right now, basically. And being in contact, which is 2 different types, you have contact and engage. What that does, it just costs more points to disengage. So for like this unit later on to get out of this hex, if you're in contact, it costs additional 2. So to go here, it would cost 4 to get into this hex. If you're engaged, it costs 4 movement, or 4 CPs to exit, plus the terrain. So this will actually cost 6 to get here. 4 to leave, 2 to enter a clear terrain. So right now, they're in contact. Now we're getting into the combat stage. Here's where we put our guns forward or back. Now I know before I made a video regarding forward and back, and there was a mistake I made. Here's the difference between forward and back. If your guns are placed back, they cannot split their firepower, and they cannot combine or coordinate all of their guns onto one target. So if this unit had, let's say, 3 different types of guns that are capable of firing artillery, each one can fire by itself. You can't combine all 3 to fire if they're placed in back position. If you place them in forward position, they can combine all their guns for a bigger firepower on the target. So that's the benefit. Also, if you're placed back, especially mostly for the defender, if the defender keeps their guns back, they won't take casualties until there's an overrun. Overrun they will, but non-overrun, they won't take casualties. They'll be protected because you kept them back. So that's the difference between front and back. Now the Italians, by the way, if I put all my guns forward, they cannot combine their guns from 2 hexes away. Only from their own hex they can combine their guns in forward position. The Germans, if this was Germans, they can combine both hexes of their artillery on that unit. But since it's the Italians can only fire from this one, and they have to fire from that one. And when you fire onto a battalion. So your opponent will tell you, I have infantry, I have armor, and I have guns. You would then say, okay, I'm going to fire at your battalion of infantry, and you set this one to do that. You'll set your other one to maybe fire at the other infantry battalion, or you can say, I'm going to fire at your armor with this stack. It's how you want to break it up on that. All right, guys. So 7th Armor is going to tell us what they have. And let's take a look at what their spreadsheet is. So this is the 7th Armor. All right, so they have a brigade of tanks. They have another brigade of tanks, A9s, A10s. They have crappy Mark 6s, and you can see how crappy they are. Their anti-armor is 0, so they really can't do much. However, the A9s are 3s, so that's pretty good. All right, so again, the Italians are firing at them. Let's see. They have their guns. This is the guns they have. They have the 2-pounder and the 18-25 pounder. And they have 3 infantry. And usually I put a note here, this should be battalion. So what we're gonna do is the 2nd Libya will fire at their battalion of infantry. They will fire at the tanks, a battalion of tanks. Now, if there's a hit, let's just say, your opponent will choose which battalion takes the loss and which battalion will get pinned. You don't choose it, they do. So they're going to mostly choose the weakest one. But before I do my fire, let me see what kind of guns we have. All right, 2nd Libya. So let's do this. The first thing we want to do we want to fire or do we want to save ammunition? So I'm going to say we have plenty of ammunition, so we're going to fire. So what I'm going to do is, let me put you guys down so you can see. All right. We're going to put forward position and forward position. So that way we can combine our attack. So what we have for them is going to be, what do I have? I have 9 and 6, it's 54, and I have 3 and 8 is 24, that's 78. So we have 78 raw firepower going down. So we're going to go after their armor. I'm sorry, yeah, it's these guys. We're going to go after their armor. So 78 becomes 7.8, which becomes actually rounded up to an 8. So we have an 8 artillery barrage coming down. Next, see what these guys are going to be. We're definitely going to go after the infantry. All right, so let's put you down. We're going to put you forward. We have 3 forward here. And we have 2 here. Not really a lot of firepower. So that's going to be 3 times 6 is 18. And 2 times 6 is 12. That's going to be 30. So we have a 3 artillery barrage coming down. So we have 3 barrage coming down. So what I want to do first before anything is I want to mark these guys that they spent. And the defender spent 3. Okay. The 7th, what do they have? Let's take a look at the 7th. I love doing this, by the way. This is a lot of fun because you really feel like you're getting into the units and what they're capable of doing. So what do we have? We have a 2-pounder. That's anti-armor. We have the 1825. So we have 1. So we're going to put in. Actually, we'll just keep it back. We're going to keep it back because we're not going to combine with anyone. So we'll keep it back, and there are 6 of them. So that's 48 of raw power, which becomes 4.8, rounded up to a 5. So we have 5 going in. And they're going to target the 2nd Libya, and they're going to target their infantry battalion. And that's what we're going to do here. All right. So let's do this. So they're going to fire first. They have, like I said, I think it's 3. They have 3. They have 8. And they have 5. So let's do the 3 first. Let's get out the book. And take a look at the damage. So here's where we are. Let me get a better shot for you guys. All right. All right, so Minetti is here. So we're in a 3 to 4. We are going after, what do we say? I should have wrote this down. We're going after infantry. All right, we'll go after infantry with them. We'll go after armor with the other one. And there, I know the British are going after infantry. So this is for infantry, which is this first section here. So we're gonna roll. White dice is the 10s. We roll the 12, which is no effect. So that's what we roll. So they miss. Let's go now to 2nd Libya. We're going after tanks. 61. So we roll a 61. And 61 is gonna be here. So we pin the armor unit. As you can see here, that's a pin. So one of their armor units are gonna be pinned. We'll work that out. And last, they are 5, the British, and they're going after infantry. They rolled a 21, which is a miss. By the way, you actually rolled twice. Once for the unit that you're specifying that you're going after, and then the second time you roll against their trucks. I'm not doing anything with trucks now, but divisions, battalions, you have trucks with you to carry your supplies, and so you can, those trucks can be taken out with barrages. So, all right, so we're gonna go now back and let's see, who do you want to remove? I'm actually thinking about putting this under the plexiglass and using, hold on, and making the chart slightly bigger, the spreadsheet slightly bigger, and then using these with a number on it that you can just place in the square box. So there's no writing, you just put this down, and this is under the plexi, and you have all your numbers. But remember, these squares would be much bigger, that this will fit in there. And that way you have just a separate table, because there's not that many divisions in the very beginning of this game, and I believe there's 25 divisions for the Germans, and I forgot how many for the Commonwealth. So I can fit that on the table, all these. So it's just something to think about when I move forward to make things quick and smooth. Okay, we're going back to pinning. Who do we want to pin? So this is a 7. So a battalion needs to be pinned. So we're gonna pin, we don't want the good ones. We'll pin one of these guys. So we'll pin this one. I'll put a P. So they can't be part of this combat at all. Now, next thing we're gonna go over is retreat before assault. So if the armor division believes, the British armor division believes that they're gonna be wiped out or lose this battle, they can retreat. If they retreat, again, they have to pay 2 to leave that hex, and they have to pay, of course, for the train to keep going. Each time they do that, they're expending their CP points and fuel. So it's not like it's free to just retreat. It costs you to leave. And you're gonna be affected when it's your turn, because that carries over to your turn. So let's say you use up all your CP points, which that means you're exhausting your troops. When it's your turn to move and combat, you're too exhausted to do anything. And so you pretty much stay where you are. So these are things you have to think about when you make these decisions. So we're gonna stay in the fight. Now we're gonna do anti-armor phase and then close assault. Here's where we designate our units to be in anti-armor combat and who's gonna go in close assault. If you have armor units, the people who are allowed to fight in the anti-armor phase are units that have anti-armor capability, meaning that they can fire on armor units, and they also have anti-armor protection. So, look at that. Obviously, all these tanks can be part of the anti-armor phase. The 2-pounder can fire with the anti-armor. So they're allowed to be as well. Oh, by the way, I forgot, I have to put all guns in forward or back position. And to fire anti-armor, you have to be in forward. To do close assault, you have to be in forward position. So these guys have to be here. Let me just make sure I put all the guns in their position. Okay, they're all put in their position. And they've been all put in their position. Okay. So let's see what I want to do here. I'm trying to give you guys a better sense. Let's see how I can do this in film. I'm trying to film and play the game and also give you guys a good sense of what's going on. All right. These guys are crappy in fighting anti-armor. So I am gonna put them, I'm gonna put all 10 of them into close assault. So let's do this. We'll do 10 in close assault. We'll do these guys 7 in anti-armor. And we'll do, you know what, I'm gonna split this up. Now, by the way, in the rules, it states that if you put armor units into anti-armor combat and there is no armor on the other side, your anti-armor value gets modified and is applied to close assault. So they go from anti-armor and put into a close assault calculations. So let's see. Let's do half and half. Well, we'll do 4 here and 3 here. I'm going to split it up. So close assault and anti-armor. Then down here, definitely close assault, 6. 2nd Rifle Brigade, 6, gonna go into close assault. And we'll hold these guys back. So, hold. So I'm holding them back from fighting. So everybody is accounted for. These guys, by the way, they're part of the headquarters tanks. They don't get into combat. The only time they get into combat is if the headquarters is by themselves and they have to defend themselves. So we're done with this. Let's see who's up next. Okay, this is gonna be close, 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 close assault, and we'll do close assault. And I have tanks down here that were attached. We have M11s 39. They have an anti-armor of 2, but their armor protection is 2. So we have 7. Each TOE represents, I believe, 4 to 5 tanks. So let's do this. 0.27. All right. So they're going to be anti-armor, and then we have one more division. So 5, 5, 5, and 5. And down here we have these crappy CV33s. As you can see, even though there's 9 of them, the anti-armor is 0. They can't even fire on that table. So we're gonna bring them in for close assault. They're best for defending at 2 in close assault. They're crappy for attacking. They're 1. So what we'll do is we will do close assault. Usually I would keep them out and hold them back just in case we get counterattacked. All right, so everyone's been accounted for. So what we do now is we're going to calculate, and let me put this to the side and get back to the game. We're going to calculate how much anti-armor is going in for the combat first, and it's simultaneous. So it really doesn't matter who fires first. So let's calculate the armor values in that first. All right, 7th armor, we have 7 times, let me get my pen. All right, what did I say? So we have 7 times 3, it's 21. We have 4 times 3, it's 12, so that's 33. So we have 33 armor factors. These are raw, R-A-W, raw firepower, anti-armor factors. We have to divide that by 10. That becomes 3.3. It's not 0.5, so it's rounded down to a 3. So they have a 3 actual armor, anti-armor factor going in. And it is, now I forgot who has the armor, so I'm just gonna pick this. And if they don't have armor, then that 3 gets translated into close assault. So 2nd Libya, do they even have, let's see. Yes, they do. All right, so they're firing at 2nd Libya. But before I do that, let me calculate 2nd Libya's tanks, and let me calculate Mileti. So 2nd Libya tanks is doing close assault. So they're not gonna do anti-armor. However, they are at risk of being hit because they're doing close assault. If I withheld the CV33 tanks, they will not get hit by anti-armor attack. Okay? If I withheld them, they would have not been hit. But since I'm bringing them in close assault, everyone's moving together to do this attack. So they're out of the loop. So they're gonna get hit, but they're not firing back. Mileti, they are firing back. They have 7 and times 2, they have 14. So 14 raw divided by 10 is 1.4. So they have a 1 actual anti-tank or anti-armor factor. Okay. Now let's look at how this works. We'll start with the 7th armor. They have a 3, right? That's where they are. So we're gonna roll and see the number, and that number has to equal or be greater than armor protection of the tank. And And where's my dice? White dice is 10s. 23. So let's look at 23. So 23 is a 2. So let's look. So they have 2. They were firing at second Libya. So they were firing at the CV-33s. Their armor protection value is 1. That means they're going to lose 2. They lost 2 TOE. So they lost 10 tanks, 8 to 10 tanks on that. All right, so I have to note this because when I make an attack, it's not going to be 9, it's going to be now 7. So let's go now to see. We're at 1. What was it, the M11s? $66. So the M11s rolled a 66. A 4. So let's look at what damage they did. That's brutal. And it's good that you saw that roll because I'm going to show you something when I was speaking about the contradiction of this rule. Okay. They cannot get hit. They can get hit. They have an armor protection value of 1. These guys can get hit, all of them. They have an armor protection value of 1, this one have a 2. Most likely, your opponent will probably say, these guys are crappy, let's lose these. These guys are more expensive, let's not. So we'll lose 4 of the M6 light tanks. So let's do that. So they'll lose 4. And that now battle is done. Now, the contradiction or the fuzziness in the rule, the way I'm playing, that's what the rule was saying, that you have to absorb enough before they get destroyed. However, the example shows, let's say they had a tank, the Crusader, who had an armor protection value of 3. The result came out as a 4. In the example, they said, well, the Crusader now has to lose 2 tanks to satisfy the 4. Even though their armor protection value was a 3, they have to lose 2 to, like I said, satisfy the 4, which makes 0 sense because then you can have the weakest tank like a Panzer I or Panzer II, the Panzer II, and they can roll and they can take out, and we're just talking about 1 TOE, can take out a whole Matilda. So that means 5 Panzer IIs can destroy 5 Matildas, which makes 0 sense if you go by the example rule. As you saw, I rolled a 66. I've rolled many times in the 60s and even in the 50s, and if you do that, you will be taking out tanks. Because even if you roll a 1, if you get a 1 result, if you get even a 1 result, even if your armor protection value is a 6, you have to lose at least 1 TOE to satisfy that 1. And that's why the rule doesn't make sense. So that's why I play with, and the way the rule is stated, you have to be equal to or greater than the armor protection value for that tank to lose any TOE. Pretty simple. All right. So basically on this, they lost about 16 to 20 tanks on that battle. And over here, who lost tanks? And they lost 8 to 10 tanks. All right, so tank battle is over. Now we go into close assault. Let me add up the close assault numbers and see what happens. All right, so I'll add up the infantry of the Italians. So we have 15, we have 10, that's 25, and we have 15 again, that is 40. So we got 40 going in. So we got 40 going in for Mileti. And we have for Second Libyan 30. So we have 30 coming from here. So it's a grand total of 70 raw close assault. Divide that by 10, becomes a 7. So we have a 7, put this down, actual close assault value coming in against them. They're defending, and what is their number? They lost these tanks. Oh, actually, I have more. I forgot the tanks at the bottom. So we had 9 becomes a 7. So we actually have 77, which rounded up to be 8. So 77 divided by 10 is 7.8 equals 8. All right, so going back now to the 7th Armor, they have 6 times 2 is 12. They have 3 times 3 is 9. And then they have 6 times 2 is 12. That's 33. 6 times 2 is 12 again. That is 45. So they have 45 divided by 10 equals 4.5, which is rounded up to a 5. So they have 5, the defender. So let's see how now we play this out. All right, let's get to close assault table. Here we go. Start at the 0. And we're 8, the attacker. They're a 5. So it's +3 to the attacker, 2, 3. Next we look at is the terrain. The terrain they're fighting in is clear. Other terrains will give a shift for the defender, but we are good there. Next we look at is their morale. So let's look at the morale. Now when you have multiple units fighting from this, let's say attacking, you have to average out their morale. They're a -2. They're also -2. So it's just -2. They're the 7th Armor -1. So it's in the favor by 1 of -1. So it goes back to +2. However, we have to also check cohesion. Cohesion can change someone's morale. The more disorganized you are, this is considered a cohesion, the worse it can be that can shift your morale. As you can see, the more cohesion you take, the more, that's what I was saying, when you expend CPs and you go over your CP allowance, that is for every 1 over, you take a hit. So that's why you have to not modify, but you have to, what's the word I'm looking for? Why am I blanking? For a better word, you have to watch your units to see that you're not overexerting them. So right now, we're both at a cohesion of 0, right? Because, let me see, how much did we spend? We spent, oh, so we have a cohesion of -1. And we have a cohesion, yeah, -1. The reason why I say that, the Italians, their CP allowance is 10. Every CP over that number is a cohesion hit. The max you can go over this number for leg units is 15. So that's the max they can do. So I have to put a -1 here to let me know. So basically they're at a -1. So we're gonna look at this column, this row here, and see what happens. All right, let me roll. Oof, 65. I think their morale went down. Okay, folks, you just witnessed something. As you can see here, let me put it this way. 55 to 65 is a -1. So their morale went down by 1 more. Let's look at 63. They're at a 0. Nothing's going to happen to them. You have to be past a 65, so nothing happens. So they're going to get another shift, the defender that is, in their favor. So we did morale. We did terrain. Next up is the size. We have to see what the size is. It is the biggest size in the hex. Even though we have 2 divisions, you only count 1 division. So their division is nothing on size. Next up is their raw firepower doubled than yours? And we know that these guys were a 70, the attackers, the Italians, had a 78, and the defender had 45. So no, they're not doubled. If the attacker would have had doubled, we would have got 2 shifts in our favor. So nothing happens for that. And yeah, we are good. So we're gonna be sitting at this +1. So let's roll and see what happens, fellas. All right, so the Italians rolled a 46. This is what happens to the Italians, by the way. You roll for yourself to see what you give yourself. So we're here. I think it's 5%. So we're gonna lose 5%, and I'll show you how this works out. So we have 5% against the Italians. $66 for the British. They're not gonna lose anybody. As you can see, no losses. Also, you add up these 2 numbers. 6 and 6 is 12. You look at the +1. It tells you if someone's gonna retreat or what have you. I rolled, what did I roll again? It was over here. I forgot what I rolled. If I added it together, What that would have been is I could have probably had an engagement, but I'm not sure what I rolled. I forgot, but that's what you usually do. You look at your roll, and then you look over here to see what it does. This is captured and engaged. So the British lost no one. The Italians lost 5%. And how you calculate this is that the Italians had 78 raw close to salt. You take that 78, you times it times the 5%, and it's going to give you a number. So 5 is 4, 35, 39. That's 3.90. The attacker always rounds up. The defender always rounds down. So that 3.90 becomes a 4. They have to satisfy that 4. So we'll go to, so you're gonna do evenly, because both stacks came in. So we'll just do this very quickly. We'll take one TOE loss, one TOE loss, and then we'll go over here and we'll take one TOE. And the reason why I'm taking only one is because of their attack value is a 1. All right, so we had to satisfy 2 for this one, and we had to satisfy 2 for that one, for a total of 4. Second, any guns that were forward would take a loss as well. So who did I have in forward position? So these guns here, what you do is you take, by the way, we got a result of 4. You divide it in half, which is 2. So we have to look at their vulnerability number, which is this number, and we have to satisfy that. These were in forward as well. And so their vulnerability number is here. Now with this, you take a loss even though the vulnerability number is higher. So we will take a loss on to satisfy that. And so that would be combat for that stage. Next thing up would be any units that you put in reserve can move, and then you can go again. The phasing player, meaning the Italians. The Italians can say, I'm gonna push my units. Now you can't go over to 15. So like if these were all motorized, they have a higher CP allowance. They can keep pushing and attacking more. As long as they have the ammunition and the fuel, they can keep attacking until they run out. Or the CP goes so high that the cohesion in this stack just shoots way down, where you become almost useless. So you have to follow your stuff very carefully on that part. But since we're at 11, I can go 4 more CP. So I can't do an attack. You can't voluntarily go over your CP when you're the phasing player. So what, or the attacker. I can do a probe. If I do a probe, it only costs me 2. And a probe is you use 50% of your units to do so. But I can't use my artillery, because as soon as I use artillery, that puts you at another 5. I just have to do a close assault by itself. I don't have the strength. If these two go in with a probe, they don't have the strength to take on this full division. So I would stop here and say to myself, okay, we'll stop. We spent 11 CP. I'll mark my paper up, making sure how much fuel I did. I know my fuel because I noticed the movement CP, and this is the combat CP. So I will set that up, do all that stuff while my opponent's doing theirs. And these go down. This was just for the combat to let me know, and they're in contact. And let's say I don't want to do any more attacks. What's going to go on is we go into, you move your trucks around, your second line and third line trucks. So you're bringing everything from the ports up to certain depots. And then those other trucks, the second line, are going from a depot to your unit who have trucks with them to give them their supply for the next combat, the next turn, whatever it may be. And then once that's all done, your opponent then goes with movement and combat. So if you exerted most of your ammunition, your opponent, which doesn't know that you did or not, still can do a counterattack on you. And if you have no ammunition, you surrender. It's an automatic surrender. So if this guy wasn't here and this guy attacks, let's say a second Libyan, and they don't have ammunition to fight, they're going to surrender. They're all captured. So I love that. You either have fuel to move or you don't. You have ammo to fight or you don't, period. There's none of this fake stuff of, grabbing it from wherever, eating off a tree or something like that. Also, with this situation that's happening right now, the 7th Armor has to attack both because they have a zone of control exerting into this hex, both of them. If this was a battalion, then 7th Armor only has to attack this one because the battalion does not exert a zone of control into the hex. So there is a list that tells you which units exert a zone of control. But here, if they couldn't get anywhere, they would say, okay, I'm going to do artillery blast on them to soak off, and I'll do regular attack on them. And to do a soak off is your artillery actual points. That means you get all the numbers divided by 10, whatever that number is. That number has to equal the battalions in this hex, in this unit, to be able to do a soak off. So, and then you can make the attack. Most likely what they'll do is they'll say, remember they spent 3, and I'm not sure if everyone's motorized. Let's see. Give you an example. All right, so everyone's motorized for them, so they're in good shape. So what they would do is they would go 2 to leave, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then every time you're on a trail, it just halves whatever that terrain is. If this is, let's say this is 4, 9, 10, 11, 12. So let's say they move back here for 12 CP. So what I would do is, I would just take this, I'll move this over here. I would just take this and say, okay, he spent 12 moving, and he spent 3 for combat from before, and altogether they spent 15. So he's good because of all his units are 15 or higher. So they won't take any cohesion hits. And once that turns over, a new op stage, which is operational stage, begins, and all that goes away. And you start fresh again. There's 3 op stages in before a new turn begins, and each op stage represents 32 hours because it's a week. So that's where we are. Again, love doing this, love playing this out actually on the board, on our maps, with the counters that we can actually touch. You know, there's nothing like doing this. That's why we buy these games. Again, the Vassal for me, if I can get rid of it, I would. It's the only way my opponents can play me, so it's what it is. But playing this out, talking it out, and just playing it over and over and over again, movement, combat, movement, combat. That's the most important things I always do when I learn a game system, and also supply, until it becomes second nature. Because I love to take out a game where I can throw it on the table and just start playing it. That's what makes it fun, because you know it so well. Or if you forget certain things, you know where to look in the rule book. You know you have an idea of what it is. Like right now, I have my Goss game here, Wach am Rhein, which I'm still going with that, which has been a lot of fun for me. But yes, so all this stuff is nothing like playing our war games. It's not like playing our war games and actually sitting down and just playing it out. And you know, that's about it on this. I'm still working on the air. I know a lot of people don't like the air rules. We didn't either when we played this, because individual planes, and War in the Pacific has a great way of doing it, where there's 10 planes to a counter, and the 10 planes are a wing, I think it was, and if you flip it over, it becomes a squadron. I gotta look back. And maybe use the air rules from that system. That way you're not dealing with individual planes, because when we were playing our online game, we had over 100 planes that you were rolling for. That's crazy. So I can't believe we did that. So instead of just break them into 10s, and then you only have 10 rolls to do. In any event, but there's also another way they do it. It depends on how many planes are coming in, compared to your fighting bombing rate or whatever, your fighting value, and it will give you a result. Very easy, very quick, and done with. So I have to play it out and see how it works here. But in any event, guys, all right, I'm gonna go back to playing. I'm gonna do some more, but I'm gonna end it here, and I'll post this up later. Take it easy.